Welcome back to Light the Fuse, where we're just turning individual interviews into rip-roaring three-part sagas. This is Drew Taylor, once again joined by Charles Hood.
Hello.
And today we are here to introduce the third part of the Maryann, Brandon, and Mary Jo Markey interview. Very sad to have this interview end at all, really.
Yeah, for sure.
They're the best. And you must be just so satisfied because we got to cross over into some dog movie territory in this one. I don't want to give anything away.
That's true. We do talk about dog cinema today. Not for very long, but just
pretty great.
They did a couple of movies. We do talk about The Last Jedi though, and there's some really good stuff there. And of course we get into Cruise's hairstyles. They really dive in and talk about what makes Tom Cruise's hair work.
Yeah, I'm glad to see someone giving his hair the proper attention that it really deserves. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Before we jump into the interview, though, I wanted to quickly bring up Steven Soderbergh has a movie log that he releases every year, and I just recently looked at his 2019 movie log of every movie he watched and every TV show and book he reads or whatever, everything that he did in 2019, and I noticed that on Christmas Day, he had a little double feature of Brian De Palma's Mission Impossible and Zodiac, the David Fincher movie.
Love that.
That's pretty fun double feature.
It is. An odd way to spend Christmas, but you know what? I'm into it.
Yeah, I'm all for it. That's really cool. Soderbergh, I wonder why. A lot of times you'll see when you can tell he's kind of researching for a movie. You can tell he's kind of watching a certain kind of movie before he starts shooting something new. But he also has like staples that he watches every single year. You'll see he watches the Pakula movies every year. He watches Clute and All the President's Men and Parallax View. He watches those three all the time. He watches 3 Days of the Condor all the time. He watches The Hunt for Red October all the time, which, by the way, we should mention we did a Patreon bonus episode for the 30th anniversary of The Hunt for Red October, which was just a few weeks ago.
It's true.
We did a episode just about why we love The Hunt for Red October. We just sort of rambled on about what makes that movie special to us. And so yeah, if you are interested in that kind of thing, you should sign up for our Patreon, which is patreon.com/LightTheFuse, which also has commentaries for all 6 Mission Impossible movies and bonus episodes about what's going on with the shooting of the movie, the new movies, and other bonus things like you interview me about the movie I just directed, and I interview you about the book you just wrote, The Art of Onward. Mm-hmm. And so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, then you should sign up.
Well, I was just looking up that Soderbergh's making a crime movie, so maybe he's just looking at some crime and some suspense stuff.
Yes, but he does he does regularly watch David Fincher's movies too. They're buds, and he seems to watch Zodiac and Social Network and stuff pretty regularly. So I don't know if Zodiac would be part of that, but maybe Mission Impossible was.
Right. Well, we'll see. The movie sounds cool, so any new Soderbergh movie is cause for celebration.
Hopefully it's Mission Impossible influenced.
Yeah, we would love that. So let's jump into the interview now, and then we will be back to recap it. So now please enjoy Kevin Blumenfeld's completely just disingenuous ripoff of the plot theme, and we'll be back right afterwards. Did you guys like Last Jedi?
I liked parts of Last Jedi, yeah.
Mary Jo?
Last Jedi did the second one. You know.
All right. Well, I guess we're not telling the truth today.
Well, we're not lying.
Well, so we.
The Last Jedi. I will say this was just a different take.
Completely different
on the Star Wars saga. Mm-hmm. And to Ryan's credit, he stuck to what he wanted to do, and he wanted to deconstruct the film and open it up to go a different direction. Mm-hmm. And that is the film he made. And I know it's controversial, but isn't that kind of good in a way?
Yeah. He brought new elements.
You bring new elements, and you kind of...
It was exciting, I thought, yeah.
Yeah. So, That's why I say I feel very much like in hindsight that the trilogy, the last part of the trilogy, needed one vision.
Yeah.
And it's,
I couldn't agree more.
Right.
Yeah. It's a little all over the place.
It's very strange to have the second film so consciously undo the storytelling of the first film. I'm
film.
sorry. That's what it felt like.
No, yeah, that's what a lot of people who are saying that about Rise of Skywalker, that it undid all the stuff that Rian Johnson did, but it's like, Rian Johnson kind of did that first.
Right, like it's like, so it went like that.
I don't even really feel that that's true about the third film. I don't know. I don't feel like it was...
the third film went with the first film.
Yeah.
it took where the second film ended and just tried to tell a story. I didn't feel like it was consciously
Right.
I'm trying to I don't know. It just didn't feel that way to me.
It's interesting. Last Jedi is a polarizing movie. I think it has a lot of really interesting ideas, and it doesn't all fully work.
I agree. I think it's really polarizing, and I think it was hard to know for the writer and for JJ what to do with it.
Yeah.
And I think
how do you bring all the Star Wars fans back from that?
or how do you it's like if somebody wrote the middle of your novel and you're like, okay, now I've got to, how do I get the end of the novel? And I think any big film, like action, adventure, sci-fi, all these films, they're very hard to get on paper. And I think as editors, that's why you end up, or in my experience, you end up doing so much work in the cutting room because you can't really write these things out. It's like, oh, they go to the thing and they have a battle on this planet. And then that battle becomes a story in itself.
Yeah.
But on paper, it's not quite a story. It's just kind of a sequence
of
shots. And then you have to...
that you try to invest.
Right.
Right. And you're dealing with visual effects and you're dealing with... cohesiveness and trying to keep a story alive, and it gets big, and I think that's why those kind of films spend so much time in the editing room. As your first question was, did you spend a lot of time evolving it? Of course they do evolve, and then you've got a huge visual effects component. And I think the thing on Star Trek, the first Star Trek, certainly,
I was just gonna bring it up.
those sequences they were, I would say they really were kind of worked out.
Well, except for remember that was when the writer's strike happened?
Yeah.
And they pushed the send button like at 11:59 the night before the writer's strike started.
Oh, wow.
So,
and there really was not a third act. And
Really?
And they were not allowed to write. They were not allowed to write. And I got a sequence of shots for this whole thing where Nero is on his ship and they're on their ship and Spock is...
Oh, and the jellyfish.
And the jellyfish and everything. I had nothing. I had no script. I had...
That's right.
I had dailies and I had a beat sheet. JJ sent me a beat sheet. Like, this should happen and then that should happen and that should... And I had no dialogue. I had nothing. I'm sitting there getting like guys in the cutting room. Give me this line. I want to try this, see if this works, And it's so funny when I look at it, and I still do love the movie, but like there's like Nero turning around saying, "Go after him," and stuff like that. It's like, I wrote that because I didn't know what to do, and I thought it was like ridiculous. There it is.
Wow, I mean, it's so remarkable. That movie turned out so well.
Yeah.
I know, but I mean, that's what I mean about what we bring to the project, and you're the one in trying to, a lot of times you are really investing your soul and your emotion and your psychology into the movie because it isn't really anywhere. I mean, there really isn't anything else to go by.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you got a bunch of green screen and some people saying lines, and you're like, I wonder what should happen here. I guess there'll be a big thing, a big castle, and we'll be... then we'll have them walk across the... is he here, there, and then that person? And, a lot of typing.
Yeah. Do you want to ask your bingo question, Charles?
Oh,
Go
I
ahead.
could bring up Bingo. We talk about how we're living in a golden age of dog cinema now. There's so many great dog movies. I think it was Maryann. Did you work on Bingo? I grew up on this movie Bingo.
I cut
haven't
Bingo.
seen it in like 25 years probably, but I saw it on your filmography and it's like, oh my god, I forgot about that movie.
Who doesn't love Bingo?
Yeah. It's sort of like Pee-wee's Big
you really?
Adventure almost,
Yeah,
right?
it's
But
like
with a
Bingo,
dog.
yeah, and he just like ends up
you hear that?
everywhere. And,
Mary Jo worked on Turner and Hooch.
Oh really?
I don't.
Dog
It's
people.
probably not.
Right.
It's probably not on my resume because I was an assistant then. But yes, I did.
Wow.
And they're rebooting it. To
I
be
know.
Yeah, I
to
heard
be a
about that.
series,
And you want to
yeah.
retire now? Come on.
No,
I mean,
no.
I know. No, I
Look, if they
know.
remake Bingo,
No, I
I'm
don't
in.
retire. What'd you say?
I said if they remake Bingo, I'm in. By the way, on that
That's what the team
film
works.
is when I met George Lucas.
on
I
Bingo?
cut that.
Bingo?
Yes, I cut that
Wow.
film in
What
Vancouver.
did George Lucas have something to do with it?
The Matthew Robbins, the director of that film, is a good friend of George's, and we ended up at the Skywalker Ranch doing all of our posts there.
Oh wow.
And so George used to come into the cutting room. Be like,
You know, I think
here you go.
Bingo should
Come on, should the dog?
dog's
What do you
really
want the
cute.
dog to do? And I remember, when we were in Canada, I made friends with the dog trainer. Boone Nar was his name, and I had my dog with me in Canada. I had a border collie, and I was like, "You train my dog."
Before we get to the final questions,
Yes.
I want to also ask you. You worked on a couple of DreamWorks animated movies. The first How to Train Your Dragon is so great, and then Kung Fu Panda 2 as well, which is great. So, was that process? What was that like? Just to go into animation editing, you know?
So my neighbor across the street was the producer of all the Kung Fu Panda movies, and one day she came and called me and said, "I need someone to."
This is Bonnie Arnold? No.
No, it's Melissa Cobb.
Okay.
Would you mind, can you recommend someone who can help with some of the action sequences? This was in the first Kung Fu Panda. And I said, I'll do it, even though I was working on, I guess, Star Trek at the time. So I did it on the weekends. And
So you helped them with the first
Yeah,
Kung Fu
and I
Panda?
just went in, I
That's
was like-
probably my favorite DreamWorks one. I love the first.
I love
Kung Fu Panda.
I loved it.
Yeah.
But it was like, it's interesting. Animation is just like a backwards process, because as an editor, it's great because you go in and you're like, you read a sequence and you go, okay, these are the shots I need. That's all I need. You want to do something else? Be my guest. But I want to go from here to here to here. So I sat in a room with like storyboard artists, and they would draw it out, and I go, not quite like that. Could you, and then I tried to sort of explain my idea of an action sequence or a chase sequence, and I went in on a couple of weekends, and that was my first foot into it, and I was like, this is really easy to do. I don't have to do much work. And when Bonnie Arnold called me on How to Train Your Dragon, I had just I was supposed to do Gulliver's Travels, and again,
The
they
Jack
changed.
Black.
Yeah, the Jack Black one. And Rob Letterman's a good friend of mine, and I was happy to do it for him and they decided to go to England to shoot it. And again, I was in that terrible position where I was like, I'm not leaving my kids for 6 months, and I
Right.
didn't know how to bring them with me because one was graduating high school. It was a whole thing.
Right.
It was, again, most of my life, obviously, as you can tell, is run by my children. And then I edit in between to support them. And I hung up the phone with Fox, and they were like, you're not going to do this film, are you? And I was like, no, I'm probably not. And 5 seconds later, the phone rang and said, can you come help on this film, How to Train Your Dragon? And I was like, I just happen to be free. And I actually spent a year on it doing the same thing.
And you only had to go to Glendale.
And I only had to go to Glendale, and it was fascinating. So there were two directors, both incredibly talented, funny, they both had very different talents. And I would go through each sequence with them and be like, these are the shots I would use to do the thing. And I talked to the production designer, I talked to the head of story.
Wow.
They do everything by committee. So you sit in a room and talk endlessly about the story, and then if they don't like how it's going, they blow it up and redo everything. And so about a year was all I could take of sitting around talking about this stuff.
But you got to work with Guillermo on Kung Fu Panda too, right?
Guillermo was in
Yeah.
on that. I mean,
Was
I
Guillermo
came
del
and
Toro
went.
part of that?
Oh yeah, he was a huge
He was a
part of Kung
big
Fu Panda too.
advisor to them.
Yeah.
And I worked out the entire end sequence with he was kind of the head of story co-director, Alessandro Carloni, and we worked out the entire battle at the end of Kung Fu Panda 2, how it would happen and what it would be visually. And so it was really good fun. And I was happy to do it. It was great, like between films, like a great place to go back to. And yeah, but it's a lot of
It's
talking.
iterative.
Yes. And you know, it's nice to, it takes away the part where you're just seeing all the footage and figuring out what you can do and finding things. And so I got a bit of that. And then I've been offered animated films to direct since then. And
Really? Well,
yeah.
you should do it.
Maybe. I don't know.
With DreamWorks or somewhere else?
Well, at Netflix now, because Melissa now works for them, and she
Got a lot of great animation people over there.
They do, and she's amazing, Melissa. So she's a great producer. If I had
TBD?
if I had TBD,
5 years on one movie is long. Is a long time.
it's a lot of time.
Is that how long it takes?
I think Dragons took 4 years.
And they were the second set of filmmakers.
And they were the second set of filmmakers that went in. They do blow it up a lot, and because
Oh my god.
you can.
I just ranked all 40 DreamWorks animated movies, and so I've rewatched everything in the past few
Where's
years.
that
Oh my
coming out?
god.
That'll be on Collider for Trolls, which is great. The new Trolls is great. So yeah,
But
Kung
DreamWorks
Fu
is-
Panda and How to Train Your Dragon rank very high.
Yeah,
on
those
the
are
list
my-
I will say.
I did also
favorites.
slightly advise on Aliens, Monsters versus Aliens.
Oh, cool.
Slightly.
That's a fun movie.
It is fun.
It doesn't totally work.
It
but
doesn't totally
no.
work, but it was good fun. I mean, went in a couple of weekends and that was it.
Okay.
But that's how I know Rob Letterman.
Okay. Yes. He's a big deal.
Well, he's also a friend of JJ's.
Everyone's
Everyone's friends with
This is the
everyone.
most important.
Yeah, I think we've come
in
to
the world.
the important questions now.
First off, I think this maybe is easier for you guys. We ask everybody to rank Tom Cruise's hairstyles
in the
movies.
6 Mission Impossible movies.
So it's 1 through 6, which is, or maybe just tell us: do you like him longer? Do you like him shorter? Mary Jo is
I
gonna
don't even
die.
know.
They don't
what
even remember.
Do you
that.
have pictures?
pictures?
Yeah, we can
Can
pull
we do it
pictures.
together?
Okay, here's him in 2. So we're talking about this is a real
So it's
shag.
kind of long, long.
Oh
hair.
yeah,
I
oh
like
yeah.
long hair. I don't know.
Okay.
He looks
You're-
alright
are you
there.
into it or not?
I kind of like it. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, look at
Maybe.
I like
that's
it.
really long. I mean, look at those.
I don't like bangs.
Yeah.
Is this our movie?
No,
that's
good.
too short. That's the one you
The
haven't
first
seen
one is
yet.
really
think-
short.
Yeah, really short. Okay. No,
No.
you don't like that.
Really?
Oh, wow,
We're a
okay.
big fan of the military cut.
Really?
You're a big fan of
Yeah,
it?
we like
Yeah,
it.
we like the first one a lot.
But that's also where he was as a character.
Yeah.
Look, do you
It's
remember
not
your
a big
movie?
military
It was
look.
pretty short in his movie.
Yeah, but it didn't look like that.
No, here, I'll find 4. I'll find Ghost Protocol. Give me that back.
That's 3.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Here.
I still have your phone.
That's
It's okay.
3.
So yeah, in 3, it's a little bit longer than the first one.
Yeah,
It's
it
still
doesn't
short.
have that super military
It's
look.
kind of
though.
like you can scroll through there and see.
I think it looks pretty good there. How do I get to yeah?
Yeah.
Show
It's
her
okay.
5.
Okay.
So here's 4. 4 is sort of, it's long again, but it's a little bit more zhuzhed. It's a little shaped. It's sort of feathery.
Looks like a mullet.
He's a little, he's a little mullet there. He's
Okay,
a little
all right,
bit. He's
okay.
a little bit.
Fair enough.
Fashion model.
Okay.
What's that?
It's
5.
Rogue Nation. This
I
is
like
5.
that.
That's
That's
nice.
good.
Yeah, he looks good there.
He actually looks quite
So
good
it's
there.
kind of medium.
He looks
You
a
know.
lot like Tom Newman there. Weirdly.
Oh.
All right, here's,
You gotta fall out.
I gotta follow up. Sort of a little longer. You might not like this because something I affectionately call the micro bangs are in
Yeah.
there, you know?
Yeah.
It's not terrible, but I like that one better.
Okay,
I
so
like
you like-
five.
You like 3 in Rogue Nation, it sounds like?
What did you just? I thought you just showed us 5.
Five.
That was
that's
Rogue,
fine.
that's
I
Rogue
thought-
Nation's 5.
Oh, Rogue Nation. I was thinking that was 4. What's 4 again?
Ghost
4 is
Protocol.
one.
Ghost
That's the
Protocol, right.
longer,
That's the long
longer
yeah,
model.
I
shape.
didn't like
Yeah.
that one. I
Yeah.
liked
He's
5.
a little
and,
coiffed.
I liked
Yeah.
5 and 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
5 and 3.
I concur. 5 and 3. But I
Okay.
think 3 I
That's
like
important.
the best. I kind of like 3 the best.
Okay.
Because 3 is kind of slightly messy, but not, but you can get by
But
as a
not
spy.
too.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, he's like 9 to
Like
5 in
Viking.
that one. And he's working 9 to 5, so his hair is in a good place, I think.
Yeah. We also think that if he's, if he's been, sort of let go of the IMF. His hair's a little longer. He's not on the job. Before he's been in a prison for several months.
So that's why it's so long before.
Anyway.
Oh,
We're
get it.
very interested in the hairstyles.
I just want to know, did Paul Hirsch sit here and do this?
He refused.
He refused.
I knew it.
Yeah.
He wouldn't rank
we asked him, and he said a very curt no.
about the hairstyle.
Yes.
Just had to ask.
And we've spent maybe 5 hours with Paul Hirsch at this
Yeah,
point.
we've done 2 different interviews with him.
Yeah. He's amazed that we keep showing up at his house.
Because after his book came out, we went and talked to him again.
But the book is have you guys read his book?
No.
Oh,
It's
it's
really
fabulous.
great.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Is it tell all?
No.
Not really.
I mean, he's pretty.
This is what's so
there's
weird
good
about-
gossip in that book. He doesn't
bet
hold
there
back.
is.
Paul describes people's mustaches and hairstyles
Yeah.
in every scenario, and then I said,
And then he doesn't want to talk
Yes,
about it.
exactly.
Yeah, that was really frustrating.
Yeah, it was-
because the
But
book
you-
actually does do like very specific detail about every person's hair and beard and.
But it's hard to say because, first of all, every hairstyle has to be appropriate for the story you're telling.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah.
a big deal. And
Yeah.
now that you say he was in prison in 4,
Yeah.
then
See, now
the
it's making
longer
sense.
makes much more sense to me.
Christopher
And-
McQuarrie took a long time to explain to us how he came to the haircut.
Chris McQuarrie would take a long time explaining everything to you. I
Did
was.
you interview Brian Burke?
No, we
where
want
is
to.
Brian?
Where did he go? We want to find him.
You can email
Can you-
him. He'll answer you.
if you want to share that, we emailed JJ, completely ignored us. So if you talk to him, say these guys are nice. They're very enthusiastic, but no response yet. Maybe he's taking his time. He wants to.
Well, first
You
of all,
know-
he's been busy.
I mean,
He's
Yeah.
been
been a little
busy.
busy.
Also, I think the press, I have to say
Yeah.
for myself, was not kind to
No.
Rise of
No, they have
Skywalker.
not been.
We've got misquoted constantly.
Yes.
I personally got misquoted so many times. I'm
I
afraid
saw
to
your
even speak.
variety article.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
it's awful. I finally
it's
just said,
awful.
please, I'm not answering any more questions because I talked to you honestly about a film that I put my heart and soul into, and then I read what
That's
you wrote. It's
terrible.
terrible. It's
Well,
terrible.
you can let him know that we have nothing but freakish enthusiasm for his work and
And
particularly Mission
Yeah,
Impossible.
but
Impossible.
you can understand why he
Yeah.
might not want to
Yeah.
Yeah.
be, his words get twisted and, they paint him as like, or all of us as, people who didn't like aid or did like it. I mean, those
right.
things aren't,
They insinuate a lot.
they insinuate so much and you're like, look, we're supportive and just trying to make a film
Well,
here
I was trying to
Yeah.
make the best
that
film.
we don't have a devilish secrets to keep from everyone or why we did things. We just tried to tell
Yeah.
a great story, and
Yeah.
it just really I spent a month literally not answering emails or my phone because it was like you're gonna quote the editor as saying
source.
things I
Yeah.
didn't say.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just the source of like, here's how you do things.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
That's what's good about podcasts, though. You just get to we won't
Yeah,
we won't
yeah.
edit you or
Yeah.
rephrase you. It's all just your voice.
and we love
That's what we'll
want to say too that we love the editorial process and we love editors in general.
Yes.
Obviously, we
That's very
we
kind.
love Paul and we love Eddie and we love you guys and the work you've done. So this has been a thrill. But before we let you go, do you think you can rank the Mission Impossible movies? Well, you haven't.
You've
Mary
already
Jo
said-
hasn't seen 2, so that you're.
No, I haven't seen
How
two.
about your
already
top
said
3?
You've already said 3 is your favorite.
3 is my
Well,
favorite.
3 is our favorite.
Okay, well,
End
give
of list.
give us 2 more.
I like 4.
Okay,
You take one.
Hey.
Fallout.
Is that the last one?
Yeah,
I like Fallout. I did.
you must
I really
appreciate
enjoyed
them
it.
from an editorial standpoint.
I
as well.
definitely do.
Actually, Fallout is very well made.
It is
Yeah.
very well
really
made.
well shot and made. And
Look, I will say this: Tom Cruise is a movie star.
That's for
he
sure.
is extremely good at what he does and extremely watchable. And whatever you can say about him in the magazine stands in the supermarket, fine. But when he's on the screen, he commands the screen. So movies that he's in are pretty compelling.
Yeah,
I mean, I liked Oblivion. I liked Tomorrow
that.
Never Comes.
that Live,
Yeah.
Die, Repeat, whatever
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
originally
Yeah, Edge of
called. That's
Tomorrow, yeah.
terrific.
Yeah,
That
that
movie.
was great.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow.
See,
That's
that's
one.
terrific.
It's a
Yeah.
great movie. He's great in it.
Yeah.
And you know, so for as long as he's doing Mission Impossible movies, they're going to be good because he is compelling. And I think Rebecca Ferguson's good.
Oh,
and,
she's wonderful. Yeah.
she's amazing. And Simon Pegg brings this humor and they're just so watchable.
Yeah.
I mean, they're fun. They're
Yeah.
fun to go to. And
Mary Jo, would you come out of retirement if they asked you to do another one?
Oh gosh, probably not.
She says maybe.
I'm sort of into this other world right now of like character-driven, totally different
Right.
from what I've done in the past, and I'm really digging
You're
it.
loving it. Okay.
Well, you also did the new Charlie's Angels, right? Was that?
I got fired off of that. You know?
Oh no! I was going to ask how it was to work with Elizabeth Banks. Maybe it wasn't so great.
Well, it's so interesting because I was just talking to my current director who knows her, and we were just having this funny conversation about editors being fired because he was. I can't say this, okay, but anyway, he was under the impression that editors can't be fired. I don't know where he got this, but he's been in the film business a long time, and I just laughed and I said, "Are you kidding? I've been fired
Right.
like half a dozen times," which isn't really true, but I don't know, it might be.
Editors get fired
A lot, you know.
A lot for.
And he
I think
just-
it happened on MI too.
Oh, they had a.
Like,
Oh,
they
they
had
went
a
through
lot
a
of-
slew of them.
It's
Yeah.
usually a warning sign about the
Yeah,
film.
right.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But anyway, we were just laughing about it, and he said, "Well, I don't understand why anybody would fire you." And I said, "Well, your friend Liz Banks did," and he said, "Oh yeah, I knew about that." And he said, "But what?" I talked to her, and she even admitted your work was good, and the reason that she fired you was completely immaterial to anything that I would be interested in. You know, it's so. It was just, I don't know, why did I start saying this? Oh, yeah. Anyway, I did. I got fired off of Charlie's
Sorry, I
Angels.
didn't mean to bring up the sore subject.
No, it's not sore at all. I only did it because Sony begged me to take the job. They didn't
Right.
have anybody, and I didn't really want to do it, but Sony's been very nice to me over the years, and I said, okay. And then, of course, you put your heart and soul in something and become completely committed to it, and then the plug gets pulled. But,
Yeah.
it actually, I'm sure it was a very good thing. I don't think that we would have ever been really good collaborators. She really, what I was interested in accomplishing, which is trying to make us, she just, I don't know, her interests were elsewhere. So
Interesting. 'Cause
I actually haven't seen the movie, so I don't know.
I haven't seen it, but she cited Mission Impossible as a reference point for the movie, so that's interesting that she would let you go.
yeah, but maybe not our mission. I don't know.
I don't know either, but I mean that's a great example of like as an editor, you do put your heart and soul into these things, and you kind of give over and totally commit. And if you aren't working in a situation that you're getting that back, it's so hard.
Right.
It's really difficult. Like some editors some directors act like you're the enemy. I don't know if you've had this experience, but they don't realize that you want to help them. That everything in you wants to help them make the best movie that you can make. And I've really had some not very pleasant experiences with, I don't know, with people just thinking like they just don't get it.
I think a lot of people don't understand what an editor
Yeah.
can bring. And then when they do understand what an editor can bring, they don't want to share the limelight. So
Right.
That is
you
true.
get minimized, or it's a very tricky
Yes.
political line to walk. And I will say, politics is not something I think goes hand in hand with anyone who wants to be an editor. So you get the politics that I've never been good at, and then you get the trying to do the best job you can.
Right.
And that kind of sometimes clashes. And
And I've actually never been really interested in that.
nobody,
I'm just not.
I just don't think it
want
goes
to do
with.
my best work.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how JJ became interested in me. Was that he could see that I worked that material to death. Even we were working on Felicity, and he could see that I brought everything I had to that game, and I've always just relied on that. And
Right.
it doesn't always get you through things here.
Right.
No, that's what I mean. I think it's different for different people, and I think it's also interesting. Like you say to me, if I want to direct, would I direct? Like that's a really loaded question, because directing is very different. Like editing is very focused. You're telling a story, you grabbing from wherever you can to figure it out. For Mary Jo and I think we had to expand it to like giant visual effects, and and then you're thinking about the sound and the music, but it's all focused on the film, like bringing the film to the story that you're telling. And I think directing is you're answering a million different questions, and you're saying to a million, everyone on the crew, you're doing your thing, and it's all I'm a conduit for all of that, but I'm not real, your focus is so bifurcated. And so it is like a difficult choice to make. Like, do you want to be that traffic cop person who really wants to just tell a story, or do you really just want to tell a story and just not hear all the other noise? And so sometimes when I see like two people directing, that interests me more. Not to cut for, but if I were going to direct, wanting to have a partner to do it, because I think
Mary Jo, you interested?
I can't get her to do it.
Actually, JJ did offer me an opportunity to direct too, but I do think that directing is something that you should have if you're going to do it, you should have an absolute passion for it, the way that I have the absolute passion for editing. And
that's what I'm trying to say.
I don't have an absolute passion for directing. I mean, and there are so many people out there that do. I would never want to take an opportunity away from
it. It seems like a
them,
tough transition too. I mean, Walter Murch only directed one movie.
Return to Oz.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like there is
it seems like a natural path, editor to directing.
And it does work for some people.
I do think it does. I think it's a very hard thing to maintain these days, unless you go to Netflix or, where there's so much content now. I mean, it's changing.
Yeah.
The landscape of films is changing rapidly.
Right.
But to maintain it and to get a second chance, that's really hard.
Yeah. Well, do you guys have anything to plug as we leave on a positive note? I mean, I'm sure Skywalker will be on DVD by the time this comes out, probably.
I don't have anything.
What are you working on next?
My tennis game. My new dog.
Guardians Galaxy 3 is about to start. You're gonna get on that?
No, I haven't.
Fred's going to be on that one again?
Is he? Oh, good. Good for him. Is James Gunn back directing?
Back. He got slapped on the wrist.
Right, but now he's back.
That was so dumb.
That was silly. Yeah.
Well, the pendulum swings.
Yeah. But we want to just thank you from the bottom of our hearts for accepting this mission and spending so much time with us.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
That was it, Charles. It's all the time we had with Maryann and Mary Jo, and I was sad to see it go.
And it was all sandwiched between Kevin Blumenfeld's beautiful rip-off music.
How that man is not in jail, I don't know. But God bless him.
I think Kevin maybe's on the run.
You think he's on the run?
Yeah, I think the authorities are after him now. They've caught on. They know about his rip-off of the plot theme, and they're after him.
Yeah, I mean, he found a turtle in his yard the other day, and he felt the need to contact animal authorities. So I think that might have been.
It sounds like we're making this up, but it's actually true. He like tweeted or Instagrammed it, like he found a turtle in his yard. It's true. It seemed like it was a pretty big turtle too.
Yeah, but I said just let the turtle live. What are you talking about? Why do you need somebody to come pick it up?
Yeah,
just put it in your yard and let it flourish. But
yeah, I would actually be pretty psyched if a turtle was living in my front yard.
Yeah. I mean, I think that him calling the authorities, though, probably tipped him off, and now he's on the lam.
You're so right. That's probably what did it.
Yeah.
That put him on the grid. He needed to not do that. That was bad.
Yeah. But he deserves all the punishment he gets, because that's just flagrant ripoff of the plot. But what are your takeaways from this episode, Charles?
It's crazy to me that they talk about that there was no third act for the Star Trek movie, that they had to make it up. They had a beat sheet. That was crazy.
That was really funny. Where Maryann was like, so there's a spaceship coming this way, and then it's like, whoa.
I mean, that movie turned out amazing, and they just didn't have a third act because of the writer's strike. Crazy.
Yeah. And it was also fun to hear about like the differences between live action and animation, which is a topic that we return to again and again on the show, whether it's Brad Bird or talking to all the visual effects artists who we've had on. So that was really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a great chat. I mean, they're really inspirational, and they've done so many things and have been working for so long. It's really nice.
Yeah, and I hope Maryann goes and directs an animated movie. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like she's been courted.
I think she'd do an awesome job, so she should do it.
Yeah. So what do we want to tease about upcoming episodes, Charles?
Well, we've got David James coming up for the next couple weeks. We'll be talking to him. He was a still photographer on 3, 4, 5, and 6, and also did Spielberg movies, so he's got great stories about Spielberg. He's done a bunch of other Tom Cruise movies, so he tells stories about that. The first movie he did for Tom Cruise was Legend.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, he's been around for a long time. Fallout was the last movie he ever did, so he said he's retired. And also, interestingly, his daughter does it too, and his daughter did the Halo jump for Fallout.
Yeah, it sounds like she's a big deal now too. She's working on King James, which is the Serena Williams movie that Warner Brothers is doing right now with Will Smith as their father. So that's she's just up and coming.
Yeah.
In the family biz.
Yeah, wait, did she actually do the jump, or was she just on the plane?
I think she was just on the plane. I don't think she did the jump.
Yeah, she was. Okay, so yeah, he tells a story about her on the plane. Anyway, so yeah, that's going to be great. Check that out. We've also got a composer coming up and a costume designer and some other surprises. The 20th anniversary of MI2 is coming up, so we're going to do a special episode for that. And, of course, we've got our 100th episode coming up, so we are going to do something special for that. Still working on what that is exactly, but it will be something great, so you should stay tuned, and you should spread the word and let everybody know how great this podcast is, because that would be very helpful to us. And also sign up for the Patreon.
If you think it's great, we don't want you to lie to people or make a fool out of yourself in a public setting. Only if you think the podcast is great, tell other people it's great. If you think it sucks, just keep it to yourself.
Yeah, keep your mouth shut.
That's all we ask.
Yeah, so sign up, spread the word, and go to our TeePublic page and buy a shirt or a magnet or a coffee mug or whatever you want. Every dollar helps. Even if you just want to throw us $1 on Patreon, that helps.
And like, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening to this.
And follow us on social media, LightTheFuse-Pod. That's our handle, at LightTheFuse-Pod, on Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, if you want to check out the old TV show, Mission Impossible, it is on CBS All Access right now. Oh, and this episode is brought to you by Jeremy Dillon and mixed and edited by Luke Burson. So thank you to them, and thank you to all of you. Thanks again for listening, everyone. And before we go, another mission, should you choose to accept it. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. And remember that you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LightTheFusePod, and email us questions or comments at LightTheFusePodcasts@gmail.com. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.